We are joined today by Senator Josh Becker, who represents Senate District 13, which ranges from South San Francisco to Sunnyvale. So it's most of San Mateo County and northern Santa Clara County. Josh has been called a public policy innovator working at the nexus of community activism, technology, and social justice. And that actually is pretty descriptive and factual. We've done the background checking on this. He brings a unique social entrepreneurial perspective to Sacramento and already follows in the tradition of great representation we've had in this area of Byron Sher, Joe Simitian, Ira Ruskin, actually, too. And as well as actually in the North County, Jackie Spear in her California days. And Josh founded this Full Circle Fund in 2000, in the year 2000, and co-founded New Cycle Capital. He's been the CEO of Machina, and was appointed in the aughts to the State Workforce Development Board by Jerry Brown and served, I think, 7 years in that. And then last he was a trustee at UC Merced. So has been involved in a number of things. We had a draft title of this session called Legislative Rodeo Roundup, and we never really changed it. But I do want to point out that this is not your first rodeo. And so anyway, welcome to Waterpalooza. And I wonder too if I know you have general comments and perhaps can mention what went on in the In Shallow Waters Town Hall. Good name. And we'll put up we'll put up the link to the YouTube video on that.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing Waterpalooza. And hello to everybody. Sustainable Silicon Valley. Really appreciate you inviting me here today. And yeah, it was a great discussion. We had a great town hall. And that was really a focus on reuse and recycling. I think about in my role, I try to be pretty systemic thinker, try to really, kind of have all the facts and the basis. And so from a climate perspective, we can talk a little bit about that as well. Obviously, it's tied in, but from a climate legislation perspective, we try to be really systematic in terms of tackling all the sources of greenhouse gas emissions, whether it be transportation, buildings, the grid, industrial, agriculture. And we've got, a good handle on that. With a very complicated area. Waters too is a extremely complicated area. And even when I was doing my social impact investing, we looked at water and we looked at some drip irrigation technologies, or things, agriculture and weather monitoring and all sorts of stuff to have agriculture use water more efficiently. Looked at other things that were kind of around pipe detection and leaks and other interesting things. But this job I got a chance to dive deeper, no pun intended, and it's extremely complicated. But one of the things I've understood, one of your other speakers, Dr. Jami has really conveyed upon me that our system right now is very linear, right? We're really using things once, and it just comes down, flows out. And so when people talk about things like desalinization, which they invariably will do to me, to bring up to me, we say, yeah, great. In the future, that makes sense. But first, there's so much fluff in the system, as Dr. Jami says. There's so much that we need to do. So much really low-hanging fruit, I think, for us in water reuse and recycling. And so that's one of the reasons I've focused on that. Certainly other aspects of policy we'll talk about SB 1469 later, I'm sure. But we really want to do this town hall to take a second crack and dive deeper into water reuse and recycling, making sure people really understand our current system, kind of understand some of the kind of inefficiency and waste in our current system. And and then understand a little bit about what's being done. And it is exciting that we do have agencies that are on top of this, that are working on this. We do have some significant, about 8 significant projects across the Bay Area, really 2 significantly in my district that we can discuss. So, you know, happy about that. Happy we're taking action, but I feel like I myself am still learning a lot. I need a lot of education, and certainly our citizens need a lot of education, both in terms of what they can do personally with their own use in their own home. But as a regional, what are we doing? What is going on? What are the projects? What are the groundwork we're laying in place so that 10, 20, 30 years, which that's the time frame of some of these projects, we'll be in a much better spot. So that was really the goal of it, to dive into the water reuse recycling. We also talked about San Francisco, from a public policy perspective. Obviously, that's something I think about. How does public policy help? What is public policy's role here? And in San Francisco, they passed a law. Every building of a certain size has to have on-site recycling and water reuse recycling. And that's great. And it's helped galvanize an industry now around that. And we have now examples that we can point to and other cities can point to. So as we look at, in my own policymaking around building performance standards, is that another area we want to incorporate into building performance standards? So a lot of different aspects of this, but that's been certainly one of my focuses, is on the water reuse and recycling. And that was the goal of that town hall.
Well, great. And actually, yeah, I mean, I've been a long time fan of building performance over actually building performance over codes, even, prescriptive codes. And water has a big part to play in that as well, obviously, as energy and other things. One thing in the news recently has been the tragedy of water in Jackson, Mississippi. And it's a structural failure, right? I mean, it's like very super underinvestment and neglect and predictable results, based on a changing climate so in a way, and so that is hopefully getting, that's going to be a very tough fix to have such a broken system. Contrasting with the Bay Area, there's a lot of development. There's a lot of room for leadership by systematic thinkers, by the way. There's nothing more systematic than a water network, from irrigation, from basically residential irrigation to water treatment and stormwater use, and these are completely complex systems. But I just wondered, there's some big projects coming up, and I just wondered if you could kind of give us a survey of that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's really about 8, I believe, throughout the area, and it's good to see collaboration, which is one thing we desperately need, and certainly in this area as well. So, but San Mateo County, Bosca, the Silicon Valley Clean Water, Redwood City, Cal Water, SFPUC, and other wastewater providers are working on MOU to study regional potable reuse opportunities. So that's very exciting. In Santa Clara County, Valley Water is working to meet a goal of 10% reuse through agreements they've made with Palo Alto and Mountain View to treat wastewater, expand the development of purified water for potable reuse. South San Francisco, there's some work going on. Orange Park has the first stormwater capture project in San Mateo County that was actually just completed a few months ago. So that means 240 acre feet, I believe it was 78 million gallons back into Colma Creek groundwater per year, and 15 million gallons per year into irrigating of sports fields and roadways from recycled water, therefore offsetting potable water. And the estimate is about 140 million annually in the city's drinking water usage. In Palo Alto, there are also other projects undergoing as to increase use of recycled water, an advanced purification facility called the Local Salt Removal Facility is in design for the Palo Alto wastewater treatment plant. And basic water that's already gone through the standard tertiary treatment will be treated even more with techniques generally used for desalination, like reverse osmosis. And this ultra pure water will be blended with the tertiary treated wastewater to produce high quality recycled water. And that's expected to come online in 2024. So, yeah, a number of interesting things happening really throughout our area. And certainly, as the home of innovation, we need to be pushing these projects forward. We need to be creating these examples for the rest of the area and the rest of the state.
One other project that was in a previous, just a previous session, was the Silicon Valley Clean Water led, the Regional Pure Water Project, which is in its earliest stages, but has a potential for 12 million gallons a day, which I did the math, and that's 15,000 acre feet, 15,700, I think, acre feet a year. Well, just even assuming 300 days. So, I mean, it's probably in excess. It's like 16,000 acre feet, but which is a lot of, that would be, and that's actually geared to being potable water. It isn't even indirect, anymore, but that would possibly supplement the water supply. So that was very exciting news to hear.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so I just wanted to throw that into the mix of things, looking to happen here. I mean, Valley Water had that, and actually yesterday we had Hussein Ashkrab from the Valley Water water reuse lead, who actually he was going to 5 to 10% of the Valley Water portfolio with reused water, but actually now I know the plans are to speed past that milestone to go. I don't know what percentage they'll go, but I mean they want to go way beyond 10%. So that's kind of an exciting prospect to see as well.
Absolutely.
I did want to I think it's time to get into some of the legislation, but specifically in your portfolio this year, and it's a thick portfolio. It's a very active office. I wonder if you'd tell us about the Bradford Becker, which was kind of an odd couple partnership there, SB 1469 on decoupling.
Sure. Well, I've worked a lot with decoupling in the energy space, and as one of the seed investors in O-Power, which really was only possible because of decoupling and energy, right? Decoupling utility profits from energy consumption, and actually encourage utilities to conserve. And they aren't always the best at running their own consumer-facing programs. So in this case, O-Power came along and had a consumer-facing program comparing people to their neighbors via the utility bill, turning into really a marketing document for energy efficiency, and that proved to be very successful in increasing efficiency as well as a business. So I was always interested in this concept of decoupling, and that's really what 1469 is about: decoupling water rates from service costs and from consumption. So the whole idea is incentivize reducing water use to make sure that we're then incentivizing those utilities to then incent their customers through rates and other things to conserve, and helps improve their conservation efforts, helps keep water bills low, hopefully for all customers, particularly low income customers. And so that's really that was the goal of that one. I just understand how it's played out in other areas, and there's a bit of a complicated history, here. But
Yeah, so that's a good way to put it.
Yes, in the water space, and but worked with the advocates and felt like this was the right approach at the right time.
Yeah, this I've been a very big backer of 1469 and decoupling. I mean, it seemed pretty absurd to me that the water side of PUC was kind of throwing out decoupling, and this directs them to take another look at it. I mean, obviously, the electric side has been very comfortable with the concept of decoupling and the alignment of interests, and yeah. And also that gets into actually advanced metering. I mean, just some of the logical things. I mean, you have to, measure and manage water use as well to really demonstrate the gains in this. So I think this 1469 sets off a whole good direction. Just with and this is just noting that this is for private water companies that are regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. It's a little different than, say, Valley Water and some of the public utilities.
This year. And then the budget is the other big part of it. And is it okay to go into the budget now, or you want to save that?
Oh, sure. No, I was going budget and actually any other kind of water related bills that you wanted to mention. I think.
Yeah, because the budget, a lot of the water work we did or stuff I was involved with this year was really through the budget. And we're great that we Senator Wykowski, who'll be terming out, very passionate in these areas and drought mitigation and other things. So I supported, and we passed $880 million to continue current year's water resilience package, an additional $750 million for a drought response. The budget package included an agreement to provide $4.6 billion across 3 years for water related activities, including $3.3 billion in the current year. So a lot of significant money, $750 million, for example, for grants to water agencies to implement residential, commercial, and agricultural water efficiency projects. All the stuff we've been talking about. Now we do need to do better. I was just looking at some notes on this with my team. Even some of the reuse and recycling, water recycling projects that we talked about or might be coming in the future. We need to get more money for those. This year's budget was actually pretty small directly for that. We've got $200 million statewide, whereas the Valley Water itself needs about $183 million. So there's certainly more work to do there, and it's going to be tougher budget years coming up as we come out of the real boom part. So, I really wanted to make sure while we had that money there that we really put it into as much as possible into these areas around water and the residential, commercial, agriculture, water efficiency projects. On the agriculture side, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, continue to work on that. As you know, many parts, we still don't have metering in many parts of the water infrastructure. We're getting better and better. We phase it in over a long period of time. But you still have people die, very deep, ever deeper wells, and people trying to one up themselves. And so we had a bill around that I supported. I think it's, and again, I end up getting tabled for next year, 2201 by Senator Assemblyman Bennett. That was around this piece, because it's the interplay between the local groundwater management agencies and sort of the statewide. So that was one of the bigger fights. We had a number of other bills around stormwater that did get through that I expect to have signed. We also had to help people with their coming out of the pandemic, trying to not get water shut off, not get electricity shut off. So we had a number of programs then for low-income folks that were struggling in some of those areas. So I'd say it was a very productive year. Again, a lot of focus on the budget, because while we had the money, let's get it out there for water projects and sea level rise, prep as well, So that was a lot of that. There's a whole other energy, budget stuff that we could talk about, but I wanted to hit on some of those issues.
Yes, I'm sure there's many areas that, yeah, that we can go into. I did want to ask you about the, well, the governor's water supply strategy that was, released recently. I mean, basically, looking to get 10% more water, which is in some ways a funny idea because of the fixed amount of water we have in the world, but by that they meant more in terms of water reuse it would ramp up, but it was like 800,000 acre feet that they were looking at. It looks like some of the projects we were talking about, like the Silicon Valley Clean Water and the expansion with Valley Water, can go definitely a ways towards that. But I just wondered if there was anything else out of this strategy that you'd want to highlight.
I'd say there's some ongoing work, and there's some criticisms to a high profile kind of a someone who resigned and had some criticism. So I think that's really the maybe next step for us and my team. My team and Helen Walters does a great job in this area, is now to look maybe some bigger picture across the state and think about some of those issues and see what we can involve ourselves with. But yeah, I mean, here locally that we're trying to make sure there's enough water for the fish and the salmon, while also still guaranteeing Bosca enough for the future. There's all those kinds of issues as well. So yeah, there's a lot now that we're out of the when you're in the legislative session. The good news is you're very focused on specific bills that solve specific purposes, and then the budget itself, which is certainly a little bit more big picture. But I think now we're excited with our team to really dive in, and with experts such as yourself and other people that I saw you had some great speakers, which will be helpful to us. We're trying to put together after my town hall a list of really comprehensive resources and incentives and rebates and a lot of stuff that people asked for on the town hall. What is the incentive for this? What is the process for this? If I want to do gray water, I would do storm water management. Want to do collection. So we're trying to put together a really comprehensive list on that. That's one thing we're trying to do, but then also kind of look big picture across the state and look at the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and some of these things and see what role can we play. My wife is in Colorado right now. They had, her family had a farm there for many years. The water rights are very defined, super defined there.
Yeah.
Here it's like in a drawer in somebody's office, like handwritten, and from like 80 years ago, whatever. It's like it's really crazy. So there's just again so much to do in so many areas, and hopefully with the help of you and other folks that will be speaking next couple of days in this extended network, come up with some ways to help.
Because yes, and you correctly mentioned about the legislative season, if you will, but I mean there's the budget season as well, and you were very involved in both of those, and really I am taken with that systematic thinker grasp, because that's really what it takes. I think to be able to address a lot of these water issues. I mean, we're talking about a lot of regional issues and all of the above kind of strategies, from laundry to landscape to, major reservoirs and storage projects and stormwater projects. So really thank you for, your attention and leadership in these areas.
And I know we're wrapping up. I'd like to, we want to set goals too, right? And I ask people, we'll gather the thoughts of folks here. What should our goal be in terms of water reuse and recycling by 2030? If we're at 10% today, it should be 20%. Should it be higher? Can we really get higher? Everybody obviously always quotes the stats from Israel, and we're not going to get to 95% anytime soon. But should it be higher? What's sort of a good 2030 goal? And then we can really lay out the strategy excuse me, to kind of help get there. So lots to follow up on.